So he says to them, go find him. When you pinpoint where he is, come and let us know. So obviously he wants to deal with him. So the wise men go there, then they have a dream saying, don't go back to Herod, go back to where you come from. So Herod now, he's got a problem. He doesn't know which child is the king of the Jews. So then he orders an edict to have all babies from the age of 2 and below slaughtered. Yeah? And so basically, Jesus then is carried away into Egypt. Joseph gets the dream, take Jesus to Egypt. Yeah? And so Jesus goes to Egypt with Joseph. And then when Herod dies, they return. All right? And Mathew quotes, this fulfills prophecy in Hosea where, and the Lord shall call his son from Egypt. Yeah? Which is implying what? Jesus is the Son of God. And he's going to come from Egypt. Now here's the problem. Nowhere in the Bible does it mention Herod did this, except in the Gospel of Matthew. Nowhere in secular history does it talk of this. There's a man called Flavius Josephus. Christians like to use him as confirming the crucifixion. Yeah? He's an historian. And he specifically wrote about the atrocities Herod committed. And yet he doesn't mention this either. So we've got a situation now. Matthew is telling this story as if it's an historical event where none of history reports it.
So what purpose do you think that lie was made up for?
I'm going to tell you.
Out of a genuine
I'm going to tell you.
cock-up?
I'm going to tell you. No. So what happens is, this line where it says, the Lord shall call his son from Egypt, yeah, is from a verse in the Old Testament in the book of Hosea. And in that book of Hosea, that is ripped and taken completely out of context. Because if you read the book of Hosea, the son is being referred to as Israel. And God is talking about Israel being rescued from Egypt. Yeah? Because he talks about them, my people, and whatever.
Yeah.
And what the author of Matthew did, he took where it says, and the Lord shall call his son from Egypt, took that, put it in the scripture as prophecy, and then invented a reason why Jesus would have had to be in Egypt.
So basically King Herod wanted to go with the
So because otherwise, what reason would Jesus have to be in Egypt? Because no other gospel mentions Jesus going to Egypt, only the Gospel of Matthew. So we have Gospel of Matthew making up events that never occurred, claiming their history, yeah, to support a prophecy which is out of context. To what end? To what end? Because what did I say earlier? This is a gospel to the Jews. Yeah? What's he trying to do? Subliminally compare Jesus to Moses. As Moses, when he was a baby and Pharaoh ordered the killing of the babies, trying to make the comparison, where Moses brought them out of Egypt, came out of Egypt, they're trying to make the same comparison. Why? Because in Deuteronomy 18, God says we should raise a prophet like you. So they're trying to convince the Jews that your prophecy in Deuteronomy 18:18 is talking about Jesus.
Related to this, so you should convert to Christianity. Basically.
That you should be following. You should be following Jesus.
This is
Exactly.
Right.
Now, flipping heck, what's going on here? And a Christian believes this is true. Now, what did I say about belief? Reasons for it. Yeah? It's abysmal, man. It's abysmal. And like I say, Matthew talks about these dead bodies coming out of the... No one else mentions dead bodies coming out of the tomb. Matthew talks about the 3 days and 3 nights, Jesus being the belly of the earth.
So it's a con, basically, and a corruption to basically get people to follow the way, even though they know it's wrong, they've made it up in order to what? Have power, manipulate...
That's it. Because what you got to look at is this, yeah? You know the 4 Gospels. So I'm going a bit heavy onto Christianity, but see what I have to do, you see, you're living in England, yeah? So for you, the religions is what? Atheism, Christianity or Islam? Reality. You're either going to be an atheist, or you're going to be a Christian, or you're going to be a thing. So what I like to do, I like to take things off the table. Yeah. So for example, I like the Sherlock Holmes. You heard the Sherlock Holmes quote? When you eliminate what's impossible, whatever's left, no matter how improbable, has to be the truth. Yeah? So your option is Christianity. I'm going to show you right now, even if you don't embrace Islam and don't recognize Islam as the truth, whatever, you won't become a Christian. Because the reason you're rejecting Islam, trust me, you're rejecting Christianity.
Well, so even on a much more basic level, I've always questioned Christianity a lot more. Hence, and I think a lot of people have, hence the reason that I was grown up as I say, I went to a Church of England primary school. You know, really. It's indoctrinated. But why have I come away from it at such an early age? Why have I never really followed it? And so many other people, why are they lost in it? Not only in its dreary nature is it sort of put across, but there are too many holes.
So why are people?
But the thing is that then, because of the Western sort of like mainstream media and all the rest of it, that Islam is then demonised and all the rest of it. I mean, and I can really go into stuff like that. I'm a big believer in all of that. But then that puts people away from Islam. So then people are left in the middle. Hence the reason why there are so many atheists. You know. Yeah, in this country, basically.
Look, the reason there's so many
people are away from faith, but then at the end of the day, it is leading, because I'm 43 now. Now, I'm not saying
I've got 1 year on you. I'm 44. Okay.
So, but I'm not saying that I've led the worst life in the world, but I certainly haven't led like a pure life. And then I suppose that when you start getting older, you appreciate stuff more, and then you do question, and then you start looking at faith. And I know I can't go back to Christianity, and then you start looking at the purpose of faith and stuff like that. And the way that I see it is, I've lived far too long as an atheist, and it's maybe where I could get sort of like a conspiracy theory, but maybe where they want you away from God, because which means that you live for the here and now.
Exactly.
You live for the minute, and I have lived my life for the minute totally. But that gets you nowhere. But then, so you start looking, you're thinking, well, if I'm going to start trying to look a little bit more that this is not only this life, you know, mouth and not spirit, but unto the eternal, then and then it is in connection with God, and actually sort of, because as you say, all the things you talk about that we shouldn't do, like drinking, gambling, like, you know, everything that is a quick rush, a quick hit now in your human form. Maybe I'm saying the wrong thing. Yeah, it can be good, but only for that amount of time. And that's what I'm realising now, that then afterwards it can hurt you. And then I suppose the last thing is that if you do, then, you know, if you start questioning, it leaves us in a state of where there's lots of questions to answer, and we're in a situation where Christianity doesn't really feel those questions.
No, Christianity can't.
But Islam all of a sudden becomes this sort of, because of the papers you read, the TV, you switch it on, it becomes this sort of not scary. You know,
no, but this is what I want to answer today.
Yeah.
I want to answer the stuff you're concerned about.
Yeah, as I say, I mean, I'm an intelligent bloke, and I see it, but I can speak for a lot of people. That
let me just go back to a point you said earlier, right?
Yeah.
See, you said about, the drink is enjoyable now, but then when you die later, no, forget that. I wouldn't even go that far, mate. I will say that if you drink now, you can become a victim of alcohol now.
Yeah, no, that's what I was saying. Yeah.
Is it? All right.
That. Yeah, no, not even from a point of being, you know,
when you die, and we're talking about in this life.
Yeah, in this life. Yeah.
Because if you look at those things you mentioned, alcohol, like I've said it many times, alcohol, drugs, gambling, sexual immorality, all of these things, yeah, you could come unstuck with them in this life. Because one atheist said to me, if God doesn't exist, I don't know if you've seen the video. If God doesn't exist, then you lose. Yeah, he says, right, yeah. I lose. I'm the loser. I said, of course.
I have seen that.
Yeah, and I said very simply, if God doesn't exist, as you claim, I win. Because the life I've led has been clean, healthy, all the things that are destroying societies I'm safe from, I'm protected from. Yeah. I have a guidance to give my children, something for them to hold on to, some kind of standard.
Yeah, purity, really.
Because human beings, we need what? We need a moral anchor. We need something to measure right and wrong by. Yeah? And the problem you have is when you get corrupt politicians telling you what's right and wrong, you start questioning them. Why should I believe what they flipping say? Yeah? So you need a moral anchor. Now, the problem we have with morality is it's subjective. So morality cannot even cross the sea. So, I'll give you a prime example of this, how morality can't cross the sea and how Christianity cannot help. Yeah. So in England, Christian country, the sex age is what, 16? Way too young. But anyway, 16. If you sleep with a 15-year-old girl in England, you're a paedophile and it's immoral according to the society you live, yeah? In the Philippines, it's an issue. Christian country. 12-year-old, as long as you don't pay her, for example. In another country, in Italy, you sleep with a 17-year-old, you're a paedophile. Right? So morality can't even cross the sea. Forget time. So some of the things you might have against Islam, maybe the age of Aisha when she married the Prophet, all of this stuff, is legit. But morality can't even cross the sea, mate. Yeah? So if for example, the argument is, I'm going to do an 8 mile here, yeah? Let's say the argument is, I don't believe your prophet was a prophet, messenger of God, because he married a 6-year-old and he consummated the marriage when she was 9, and he's a paedophile, mate. That's your claim. All right. What did I say about belief? What's your reasons for belief? What's your reason? What's a paedophile? What's a paedophile? Question.
Someone who likes children over adults, as they say.
Yeah.
Someone who sleeps
No,
with
no.
children.
According to the definition, is what? A paedophile is somebody who sleeps with a...
Child.
For the rest of the video, visit EFDawah.